I grew up in a super religious family. I grew up Mormon, so we didn't drink, but I, being a rebellious child, did anyways. So I started at like, gosh, I want to say 15 or 16. And I think doing it secretly kind of created a habit that was more of a binging type of drinking, which wasn't a healthy relationship. And then at some point it started to turn into a coping mechanism for the things that were happening in my life. And it was getting to a point where COVID made it even worse. And the first thing I was drinking in the morning wasn't water, it was alcohol. I was coaching with alcohol in my water bottle. Like, it was getting bad.
Hello, my friend. Welcome to Something for Everybody. My name is Aaron Machbitz. Maddie.
Hello.
welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you.
You were going to say, that's funny. That happens quite a bit on the show, actually, because I say my name, obviously, and then people want to say their name, and then we sort of get caught up in the midst of it all as I'm introducing them. But if you want to say your full name, you can.
Maddie Dougherty. Nice to meet you.
Say your last name again.
Dougherty.
That's where we get Maddie D, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Maddie D's Fitness.
It's me, Maddie D. MadsDoughFitness.
Yeah, that's your Instagram.
Yeah.
Which is linked in the show notes for anyone who wants to check it out. But great. Well, I'm super glad that you came over.
Me too.
Super glad you came over. You've been over here a few times because you're friends with my fiance.
Oh my gosh. It's so exciting.
And you were at the surprise engagement brunch, which went over really well.
Yeah,
All
did.
the friends did so good.
Yeah.
Like, no one spilled the beans. I didn't spill the beans.
She brought it up to me too, and I was like, I don't think it's gonna happen that weekend. I really think you're wrong. and and I was proud of myself because usually I get red in the face and I start laughing. And she was like, no, I had no idea. Like, when I was talking to her.
Yeah.
She had her guesses about the proposal, but not
For
the
sure. She
brunch.
Did, yeah, because she could read me a little bit. She knew, I was planning something, all this, all that. But then when we got to that surprise brunch, all of her friends, including maybe not you, but most of you guys were like, yeah, I try not to talk to you for the last couple weeks because I didn't want to spill the beans.
All I had to do was talk about soccer.
Yeah, because you guys play on the same team together.
Yeah.
Sweet.
That's it.
You guys got a big tournament coming up this weekend.
I know.
Well, when this episode drops, that tournament will be way past, but still.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Exciting.
So this is episode 170 of this podcast. It's pretty cool. So,
Whoa.
I feel honored that you accepted my invitation. So thank you for being here.
Of course.
And I have an important question to ask you before we get into the real meat and potatoes of your story. It is, how are you doing? Really, how are you doing?
Oh, in life? Life's crazy. I'm doing good. A lot better than I was doing this time last year. Yeah. We got over a year of sobriety. I'm picking up classes where I coach group fitness. I'm starting up, I have the soccer team with Ree, and then I also am on a flag football team.
Flag football?
Yeah.
Hey.
Sand volleyball, all the good stuff. Staying on top of it, staying busy, doing all the things.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So when you go to a party and someone asks you what you do, how do you answer that question?
Oh, like what I do for a living?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I usually tell them I coach group fitness. Some people are turned off by that, and other people aren't. It kind of just depends on what your interests are as a person. Because if you know what group fitness is, you know that it's more than just dancing. I think a lot of people think of Zumba or back in the day where you do the step ups, let's step up dancing.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, we lift heavy. We go just as hard as anyone in the normal gym. It's just for people that need a little bit more guidance and want a little bit of a cheerleader on their side. And I was a cheerleader, so it's perfect. Right up my alley.
Who gives a bad reaction to that? What sorts of people have you met? And what reactions were those?
So it's well, this sounds a little sexist. It's usually the guys, because guys are well, why would I do group fitness?
Sure.
But then, that's a conversation starter. Usually we can talk about it and it turns around. But then it's the older generation a little bit. They're well, why would you choose that as a career? And for me, it's important to choose what you love to do and what you're passionate about. Money does matter, but at some point you got to enjoy what you're doing or you're going to waste your life. So I think they see it more as how can you make that a stable income? And I'm just focusing on doing what I love to do. Kind of a thing.
Yeah. I think there's there should be like a happy medium between those two trains of thought, right? I think nowadays the whole messaging is like find your purpose, do what you love, and then there's no real education around financial literacy, money, investment, stocks, things to build for something. It's just like live in the moment, do what you want, and as long as you're happy or whatever happy means, no one really has a definition for it. So I don't think it's something you can actively chase.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's that, and then there's our sort of the old school. I don't want to say old school, just older generation mentality of like have something secure, money, get a paycheck, make sure it's stable. And
Mm-hmm.
now everyone wants to be an entrepreneur and a content creator, and sometimes that cannot be stable.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I think then there needs to be a meshing of those two ideas, right?
Yeah.
Because that's sort of where I think the best, most fulfilling life can be lived, right? Because then you have this job, if you want to call it a job. Like I work for myself, and so I don't really consider them jobs because I'm choosing to do them.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they get grindy and hard, and I don't want to do some of the minutia and administrative work. But majority of the time, I fucking really enjoy it. Like I get to sit down and have a conversation with you.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
So cool.
It's like the coolest thing. You get to coach people on their health and fitness.
Yeah.
Very cool. I used to do that also. But then it's like, okay, so I found this. Now how can I sort of monetize this idea so it's stable enough where I can pay my bills and feed my family or myself and travel, but also experience the world and not feel like I'm dreading every single moment being at this job.
Yeah.
So there has to be a long-winded response to your comment, but there has to be a middle ground. Like extremes on any point, right? As you might know,
mm-hmm.
are not good.
Yeah.
Right. Very rarely is it like always and never or black and white. And in certain circumstances, that is true, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
This is wrong. This is right.
Mm-hmm.
But very rarely when we're like trying to live this human experience, which is extremely difficult, is it like always and never, you know?
Yeah.
And I've learned that more with like being in a long-term relationship. You know, like when someone gets on your nerves or they do something that might annoy you, right? Lee and I don't really have that often, but I've been thinking about this now that we're engaged and gonna be married and gonna commit to like the rest
Forever.
of our lives,
Yeah.
right? It's like
bound to happen.
If she starts to do something that might annoy me 10 years from now, am I gonna say, hey, you always do this, even though that's not true? Even though she may have only done it twice.
Yeah.
Hey, sometimes when you do this thing, it slightly irritates me. That comes off way better than, hey, you always fucking do this and it's annoying me.
Yeah.
So I've been thinking about those really big words that really aren't actually true. People don't always and never do things. They sometimes do them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anyways.
I agree.
No question there, but just you might get used to those. I like to talk. Maybe you haven't recognized that because we haven't had a chance to actually sit down and chat. But yeah, when it comes to these things, I go on long-winded stuff.
We love it.
But let's start with your sobriety.
Okay.
Seems like a good place to start. I was looking at your Instagram today because I wasn't sure if that was something you wanted to talk about publicly because I've never heard you talk about it. I don't know. It's not.
It's like taboo. It's not something that comes up, but it's not something I'm shy away from.
Yeah, and so I was like wondering because I know Ree knows about it, and she's a great listener and a good person to tell things to, as I know. And I was looking through your Instagram. I was like, oh, her 1 year mark was five weeks ago from when we're recording this.
1 month ago. 1 year and 1 month. Oh, that's so exciting.
That's incredible. One, congratulations.
Thank you.
And now let's go back to 1 year, 1 month ago. What was your life like? What was happening in your life then?
Oh my gosh. Okay. Talking about it. Hopefully I don't cry because no one likes a crier.
We cry on this podcast.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Life 1 year and 1 month ago. Let's take it back. So I actually have struggled with drinking for a while. I grew up in a super religious family. I grew up Mormon, so we didn't drink, but I, being a rebellious child, did anyways. So I started at I want to say 15 or 16. And I think doing it secretly kind of created a habit that was more of a binging type of drinking, which wasn't a healthy relationship. And then at some point it started to turn into a coping mechanism for the things that were happening in my life. And it was getting to a point where COVID made it even worse. And the first thing I was drinking in the morning wasn't water, it was alcohol. I was coaching with alcohol in my water bottle. It was getting bad. And so just to be a little religious here, I would like pray about it. And I was like, I need something to help me get out from this. Like I can't do it myself because I didn't have the strength to walk away from it. And so, yeah, a year and a month ago, I fell asleep in a parking lot and I got arrested. I was in jail for like 13 hours, I want to say, which was horrifying. The second I was handcuffed, I was like traumatized and I had learned my lesson. But yeah, I mean, I've paid like actual money and like spiritually, physically, mentally, all of it. I have paid for that since then. And I have not had any desire to drink. And since then, I've gotten a new job at a new gym. I've filled my schedule all the way up. I make like double the amount what I was making last year, which was a big goal for me that I just kept pushing off because I couldn't prioritize what I needed to prioritize. I've lost like 30 pounds. I have a lot more connections and relationships with people because I can actually speak to them as an adult with maturity and not say things completely inappropriate. I can also handle my emotions a lot better. I have a temper. It's probably why I'm so aggressive on the soccer field. But yeah, I mean, being sober, it's just, you can handle your life a lot better. And I've made a lot of progress since then. So, long answer for you.
I want all of the long answers. One, congratulations. That's
Thank
beautiful.
you. Thank you.
Quite a few things happened for me in COVID as well. It was a very pivotal point in my life. But not about me, but I'll relate it to your story in a second. But I want to talk about the things that you were using alcohol to cope with. What were you coping with? What was happening? What was bringing you the most stress? What was causing you to drink as much as you were?
Oh, so many things. I think the biggest would be, I mean, so it was never super crazy things. Like when I started using it as a coping mechanism, like it was in high school, it was just the simple things. Like, I wasn't going off to a university like my friends were. So I felt like I was trapped. And that's something that I think a lot more people suffer with than I realized. So I used that as my first excuse. And then once I got to college, I was staying home and going to community college. So I'm the youngest of 4 and I was with my parents at the time. And hopefully they don't listen to this, but I'm sure they'd be fine with it, sharing their story. My dad had cheated on my mom for like a good chunk of my life. And I just want to preface with saying I've already had long conversations with him and we're on good terms. All of us are. They're still friends. But I had just started finding out everything while I was in college. And it was things that I shouldn't have seen or heard. And he wasn't aware that I was seeing them and hearing them. And instead of approaching him and instead of talking to my siblings or my mom or trying to find a therapist or anything, I decided to just get drunk about it and try to escape my thoughts that way. And that's how it all really started. Just trying to escape the fact that the people who are supposed to like love each other and be a good example to you just spent like your whole life lying to you. And so that was the biggest one for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a very, very hard thing to experience as a somewhat young person.
Yeah.
And you said you started drinking to be a bit rebellious, to do the thing that you weren't supposed to do. And then, so it's an easy sort of pathway for that to become the thing that you use as your crutch. So
yeah,
it's just like super challenging, man,
Yeah.
I've thought a lot about like addiction and, like really serious ones and why we do those things and forgiving ourselves for it and all of that stuff relating to our mental health and potentially, making an ultimate decision of suicide and things like that and where that path leads. But we can get to that in a second. So after that, alcohol just became your best friend, or what was the story there? After that initial moment where you feel like that it became your coping mechanism.
I don't think in that moment I realized it was my coping mechanism yet. I'm trying to remember the timeline of how it all happened, to be honest with you. So the first time that I brought it up to my mom, I intentionally got like blackout. And I was the kind of person that would go for the biggest bang for my buck. So I would get like the biggest, like even if it was like a wine bag, I would go for the biggest bottle or the biggest wine bag, and I would get the highest alcohol content for the cheapest amount of money. Like I would search for it, and I prepared for that. And then I spilled everything to her. I told her every detail about everything, every woman there ever was.
Oh, with your dad.
Yes. And then shortly after that, I got into therapy. And I think in therapy is when I realized that it was a coping mechanism. And I realized when it got really bad because I would pregame the therapy session.
Wow.
Yeah, in the parking lot. I would drink before going into therapy.
And also just then talking about your feelings, knowing that you were under the influence.
Yeah. And I think also for me, going into therapy, or I guess not even going into therapy, when I realized that I made myself the victim in every situation, I got defensive in every situation, I felt like everyone not was out to get me, but like everyone had negative thoughts and feelings about me. I realized that like, I think my insecurity about my drinking was making myself believe that and come up with that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you came up with a story to tell yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Gosh, I guess I went kind of far off from your question you asked.
No, this is exactly what I wanted to happen. Keep going. If you have any more details.
Yeah, no, for now, that's it.
And then is this like before or around COVID, or what's happening at this point?
That one was actually before COVID.
Okay.
So it got worse because when I spilled the beans to my mom, it kind of sped everything up. My dad was like, okay, we're going to get separated. Like he got my mom an apartment. He got himself an apartment. And at that point I had transferred to TWU, which I only did because it was what was expected of me. I am now a firm believer in if what you want to do in your life does not require you to get a degree, I don't think that you need to get a degree. You don't need to spend all of that money and all of that time doing something that you're not enjoying and you're not going to use. I don't use my degree. I think it's nice that I have it. I think it does help me. It's a nice, backup plan, but that was a lot of stress on me that I didn't need. I did that because it was expected of me. So all that to say, I moved to Denton. I was not financially ready for it. This happened very quickly. And within that same year, that is when COVID hit. So I couldn't get out of my lease. I was still paying it every month, even though I couldn't go to work. And I moved in with my mom. So she lived in a 1-bedroom apartment. It was like 600 square feet. So we were like smushed together. Neither one of us wanted to be alone. That's why we moved together, back in together. And that is where it got even worse. Like I was secretive about drinking again. I would try to drink as much as I could before she would get off work so that she wouldn't see me drinking it. So then it created me like this race in my head where I had to drink so much at one time. And I was taking tests drunk. I was doing all sorts of things. And I can't believe, like thinking about it right now, I can't believe that's how it was. That was bad. It was pretty bad.
Outside of drinking, did you have any other like sort of mental health issues? Was drinking like the full capacity of it, or were you feeling depressed and anxious, or were you thinking about harming yourself, or was there any other
anxious, yes,
outside of thoughts outside of that?
Yeah, anxious, yes. I think everyone struggles a little bit with like financial anxiety, but it's to the extreme to where like even if someone's paying a bill at a restaurant, I like cannot look at it because my heart will start to race. Like I don't like to talk about money. I don't know where I developed that, but I have this like fear of it. And that was like crippling me because everything was closed. Like people couldn't pay for rent. People could hardly pay for food. And like, even though people were getting, you were furloughed and getting that unemployment.
Yeah.
While that was great and all, like I was also thinking about the future, which is where a lot of my anxiety came from too. Like, I'm at an age where, yes, I'm still young and yes, I still have time, but everyone around me is getting married and having babies and getting houses. And I'm like, how are you guys affording a house, a baby, a car? How are you affording any of this? So I think like a lot of my anxiety stemmed from financial stresses. And then just the relationships that I was having, like friendship and family, they weren't very strong at the time. And instead of like doing something healthy to fix them, I just, obviously reverted back to drinking. And then, the biggest thing, and I still kind of struggle with it now, but it's a lot better now that I'm sober, is like feeling lonely, like not having a partner. When your best friends are both married, it's hard because you don't feel like you're worthy of that love. Oh, see, this is why I'm gonna start crying. You don't feel like you're worthy of the love that your friends get. And even though there's time and there's people out there, it really sucks. And that's what gets to me.
Can you admit that it sucks and also admit that you are worthy of that love? Like, can't those two things mutually exist?
Now I can confidently agree and say that.
Yeah, because I think that's important for those that are seeking a very long-term, intimate relationship. Yeah, like the dating market is hard, but just because it's hard and things aren't happening in the right way or the right time frame or whatever the case may be, it doesn't mean that you are someone who isn't worthy of that. It just means the right thing hasn't popped into your life.
Yeah.
And there can also be some, I say this to a lot of men, some honest feedback on yourself. Like if I'm a man and all of the women in the whole world think I'm unattractive, it's not the women's fault. It can't be. But a lot of men nowadays are reverting to that idea. Like, oh, every single girl thinks I'm unattractive in the world. That means women are shit and I'm just going to stay in my house all day. The opposite thing needs to happen. Okay, so they all think that I'm unattractive. Okay, that sucks. That really sucks. It hurts. I'm alone. I don't have a job. I live with my mom. I'm out of shape. Okay, those things are all true. But how can I move up the ladder a little bit and take responsibility for myself as a man, as someone who can be an important part of society and make myself become more attractive to the opposite sex or whatever sex you're interested in?
Right.
Then, okay, so I need to get a better job. I need to start exercising. I need to take care of my financials. Like one baby step at a time, not the whole world. But then maybe 5 years from that moment, your whole life has changed. And now you go out into the world with this confidence, this feel, and maybe women start to find you attractive, So that doesn't super relate to what you're saying, but
I think in a way it does.
But I like to bring up that point with men, and we can talk about dating a bit more. But it's like super important. There's an internal responsibility that has to happen when you're seeking a relationship, because most of the time I hear people talk about, I'm looking for this in that person. Well, that's great that you know what values you want that person to bring to the table, but what the fuck do you bring to the table?
Yeah.
That's also extremely important.
Word.
I have to know what I bring to the table. I bring this, and this, because I've cultivated that in myself, and I know that those are my strengths, and I know that's how I can show up for someone in real time. Because when you want to commit to someone for the rest of your life, that shit is hard. There's going to be fights. There's going to be financial troubles. There's going to be death. There's going to be sickness. There's going to be, I can't pay my bills. Maybe, potentially. For the normal person, that's how it goes.
Yeah.
And how are you going to work with that if you don't know the strengths that you can bring to the relationship and you haven't built that within yourself, and then you have that in another as well? So it's like, it's quite important. But back to you.
No, I think, yeah. I agree with everything you said. I think it is important to look inward a lot of the time, instead of just looking at what's wrong with the outside world. What can you do in your own situation to make it better? And that is something that I learned in the past year in sobriety. Like, a lot of people are like, Maddie, you're just always so happy. You're glowing. You're so bright. You're like a light. And I'm like, thank you. It's not easy. Like, a lot of the time I get in my car and I cry my eyes out. And then at the end of the car ride, I'm like, okay, that was nice. Now let's go. Let's go crush the day. And like, it's not like I'm just ignoring the troubles. Like, I'm acknowledging them and I'm accepting them. And then I'm like, okay, well, what can I do right now? If I can't do anything and it's out of my control, then I'm just going to go and do the best I can. And I think that kind of somewhat relates to what you said. Just kind of like,
absolutely,
you get to choose. You get to choose for yourself.
You do. We have the utmost power to control our response in every situation. Now, it's not easy, but we do have that power. We hold the power to choose our response. We don't have that much control in this world over like things that happen, but we do have immense control over our attitude and our effort and our way we respond to things. And that ultimately is the trajectory of our entire lives. And one little decision here and there can put you on an upward spiral. And I think that's important.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't have to be this like monumental thing, right? That moves you in a direction. Normally, it's like rock bottom or pain that changes people the most. Your situation was that way. Mine was definitely pain that changed me. But if we can get people to a place where they can just recognize that before that horrible thing happens, and that they can do something about it beforehand, and then the horrible thing is still going to happen. We can't change that.
Yeah.
But then we have a better sense of how to handle it, and maybe it doesn't put us into a 12-month depression, or gets us to, we have a better way of handling it. But that's the unpredictability of life. So
Yeah.
we can't really see the future, but that's what I think about it. Anyways, so it's all led to you. Okay, well, I want to touch on you putting alcohol in your water bottle and then going to train people.
Yeah, not my best.
That is it's very intense.
Yeah. It wasn't an often thing.
But it happened.
It did happen more than once. It wasn't often. I was never blackout coaching. It was more like, think of how you'd feel after like one
beverage.
Yeah. It's just like a little buzz, which I'm not saying that to say that was okay.
Sure.
But I just want to be clear that it wasn't as the extreme that I probably made it sound. Yeah, I don't know. There was a point in time where I just didn't know like what I wanted to do with my life. And I didn't know if coaching was it. And so going to coach was like upsetting, I guess. I was like, am I even doing what I'm supposed to be doing? Am I even helping these people? Do they even care that I'm there? Those are the kind of thoughts I was having.
Yeah.
I don't have those thoughts anymore. I know that I'm making a difference. I can see it. And even if someone comes in there and, I have someone who's a little bit older right now and she can't do most of the things, but it's social for her. It's like a space for her to get out of her home and socialize with people. And sometimes that's all they need. And there's a lot of people that coach one-on-one too, that like, you may think you're there to push someone and tell them to lift heavier, but sometimes you're literally just also a therapist and you're just listening ears. And as soon as I realized that, I was like, I need to be able to be my best self. I can't be going in there sloppy, drinking secretly, and acting a fool, because these people come here to escape their lives and their problems, just as I used to when I went to the gym. So.
Yeah, and people view you as, their role model or someone that they can aspire to be.
Yeah.
Or things like that. Like, it's never just a workout.
Agreed.
It never is. If you're someone who actively moves their body, which everyone should, whether that be in the gym, outside, nature, Zumba, dance class, rock climbing, jiu-jitsu, something. You have to find something. And we can get on the importance of that. But if you go to a group fitness class, I think, one, you're going because, you like the social aspect, but you see something there that inspires you maybe to be more, to do more. Like maybe you want to lose 30 pounds, or you want to be a group instructor, or whatever the case is. Like, it's always much more. For me, it was way more than working out. Like, working out was the first thing that changed my whole life. And I don't know where I would be without those like fundamental values that I learned from the gym.
Agreed.
Like, it's unbelievable. But we can get to that in a second too. So then ultimately this all leads to you falling asleep in your car in the parking lot.
Yeah.
That is actually probably the best thing that could have happened, because there's obviously a number of things that could have been way, way worse.
Oh yeah, when I called my mom and from my cell, like my jail cell, not my phone cell, she was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so glad that you're alive. Like I'm so happy for this call." Like as soon as she saw it was from the jail, she was just like, "I knew it was you, and I'm so glad that you didn't get in an accident," because she was up. She's like a super spiritual person, and she can always feel when something's up. And she was like, "I knew something happened, and I just am so glad that you didn't crash. Like you didn't kill anybody, you didn't kill yourself." And yeah, I mean, it is a good thing that I fell asleep and I wasn't actually driving, but I think it's still just as bad. But it needed to happen. I wouldn't be where I am right now and have learned everything that I've learned if it hadn't have happened. So in a way, I'm grateful for it, no matter how many tears it makes me cry.
Yeah. I think about that word gratitude a lot, because my moment was when I lost my big sister. And, September is 5 years. Well, 2008, yeah, 5 years, 2018, 2023. Yeah, September is 5 years since I lost her. And when I think about it, I'm like, I don't know if grateful is the right word, but it always keeps coming back because I wouldn't be doing anything in my life right now, currently, that I'm doing if that moment hadn't happened. Now, maybe the universe or something would have pushed me in this direction at some point in my life.
Yeah.
But that thing did happen. I can't change it. I'm never going to be able to change it. It is what it is. It happened. So, like, I sort of feel the same way as you. Like, yes, it did happen, and I'm trying to do the best that I can with that situation. I feel like I have gratitude for certain things that have come out of it.
Yes.
Again, like this conversation, like being able to coach baseball again, all of this stuff. But I would still, like, obviously take my sister back in a heartbeat.
Oh, for
have
sure.
the exact same life that I was living in 2018. And then hopefully something would happen where I would still meet Ree and, all of these amazing things would still happen.
Yeah.
But this is the life we have, right? And we have to accept it as is. And so it's just so interesting when these moments come into our life, like how we respond to them is everything. And it's not like, I always caveat that with, like, if you do go through a painful moment in your life, you don't have to try and change the world because of it.
No, yeah.
You just have to try and accept it and move forward with it as best you possibly can, whatever life you want to live through that. But if you do choose to take it and motivate and inspire and change the way you live and push you in the direction you ultimately could have gone, that's also great too. And so I think that's important to understand.
For sure.
But your situation obviously caused you to immediately want to make a difference. Like, right when that happened, like, you were just like, this is it. This is a reality check. This is my rock bottom. Or
pretty much as soon as I was handcuffed, I was like, this is not happening again. I kept mumbling, like, I'm not a criminal. Like, I'm not a criminal. Why am I back here? But I mean, in that moment I was drunk and I turned my car on. And yeah, I mean, the next day my dad picked me up, and my mom and dad had multiple conversations with me beforehand, for like years. They're like, our family has addictive personalities. Like, you need to watch out. Like, you're going to go down a very dark path. And I just kind of like disregarded them. I was like, I'm fine. I have control over it. And then that day when my dad picked me up, it was like, he was like, there's two ways this is going to go. You're either going to end up back here and nobody is going to come for you, or you're going to use this and you're going to flip it around and you're going to start doing better. And in that moment, I was like, oh, you're so annoying. But it was true. Like, I was either going to revert back and just go back to drinking and suffer further, or I was going to, flip everything around and do better. And I was like, I want to do better. I don't want to be stuck here anymore. I want to grow. I want to be on my own. I want to be independent. I want to be mature. I want to be treated like an adult, which I wasn't acting like an adult. So I wasn't being treated like one. And yeah, I just kind of used that. And I was like, nope, we're not coming back here. No, sir.
So you just stopped?
Yeah. I mean, the next day or two, I was filled with a lot of shame. I had just started a new job. I believe I was still under 1 month. And so this all happened on a Sunday night. So I missed Monday of work. Even with my drinking, I was still really responsible. So that's like very out of character for me. And they all were like, are you okay? And I walked in that day. Two of the chiropractors are also owners, and like, they're both dads. One's a boy dad, one's a girl dad. And like, I only say that because, they have different personalities, but they both came up to me and I was honest with them, and they just like both hugged me and gave me their own like piece of advice. And I cried hugging both of them. And like, just knowing that not only do my owners, my bosses, and I guess in a way also coworker comfort me, but like as a dad, they comforted me, and they just knowing that other people go through the same thing as I do, more than you think, way more than you think, was like, okay, if other people can get through this and if other people have made the same mistake I have, then I'm not such a bad person and I can get through this. So it really didn't take long for me to like shift my mindset. And that's not to say like it hasn't been hard and I haven't had really dark moments. Like I still, like I said, do cry about it. I get really worked up about it. But I also always go back to the fact that like, look at how far I've come. I haven't drank in over a year. And that's because of this. So it's like a whole like peaks and valleys, up and down, ebbs and flows kind of a thing. Yeah.
Yeah, there's the peaks and valleys, but it's more like a spiral up, right? Because if you look at a spiral up, right, it's like it goes up and then the downward part happens, but then you loop back up.
Mm-hmm.
Because that downward part is always going to happen.
Yeah.
Because like we're good, our trajectory is good. We're past point A, now we're at point B, and then this like little thing happens. I'm not feeling today. Today's really hard. It's an anniversary. It's a this. It's a that. But then here at that down point, that's our response. What we were talking about earlier. No, I choose this, so I'm going to spiral back up, and now I'm at point C, and then it just continues for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes when we spiral back down, we make the bad choice, or we don't make a choice at all, and it brings us back down to point A, and then we have to start over again.
Yeah.
That's okay, because we get another chance if we keep showing up and we keep trying. That's the beauty of it all.
Yeah.
What else? What else do you learn about yourself? What could you pass on to someone else who might be dealing with the same thing or just in the trenches of life itself?
That's tough. What could I pass on to someone struggling with drinking, you say?
With anything. Because it all relates.
Oh yeah, okay. Anything that you're struggling with, I think this is somewhat obvious, but also not, because you can hear something and just be like, oh yeah, whatever. And then you don't actually think about it or apply it until it comes down to you like actually facing it. So for me, what's helped me the most, instead of looking so far to the future, like instead of looking 5 years down the road or 1 year down the road or even 1 month down the road, like focus on the week that you're in. Or lately, actually, the past couple months for me, with how overwhelmed I've been feeling, I straight up will say out loud to myself in the car, like, be present in today. Be right here today. You don't need to think about tomorrow. You don't need to be sad about what happened yesterday. Just be right here, right now. And that has helped a lot. Just being present and being present in my thoughts, like focusing and realizing what I'm thinking. Because negative thoughts can bring you way down. And if you catch your negative thoughts, you can recognize that and be like, okay, never mind. I don't want to think about that anymore. Like, let's carry on with something a little bit more uplifting. And yeah.
Yeah, you got to be where your feet are.
Yeah.
Everything good happens in the present moment. There's an old saying. It's actually from AA. That was weird.
Spooky.
That the lights just went out a little bit. That if you have, that's why.
We love a good thunderstorm.
You have 1 foot in the past, and you have 1 foot in the future. That means you're peeing on the present. You don't want to do that.
I've never heard that. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna remember that.
Yeah, it's pretty funny, but I mean, it makes sense, right? Because if you're dwelling on the past or you're worried about the future, that means you're not here, not right now. And that's harder said than done. You have to sort of develop this like mindfulness practice to be able to get yourself locked into the present moment, using your breath, controlling your thoughts, having a sense of awareness, all of that stuff, developing that set of tools. But if you have this just general idea, right, the first step to changing anything is first becoming aware of it.
Yeah.
And then you have to accept it, and then you move into the most important part, which is action. You have to have sort of those 3 steps. But if you know that, okay, everything good happens in the present moment, how can I be where my feet are in this moment? Then you actually know that that's important, and then you can figure out the tools to get there. Okay, I need to take a big deep breath, or I need to change my body language, or I need to focus on my self-talk, or I need to have a focal point where I'm just looking at this thing, or I need to practice some boredom to know that it's okay if I get bored, and I can stir up some creativity or whatever the case may be.
Yeah,
so there's many
that's a
different
good one.
practices that happen. But knowing that you want to be there, because like, if we're having a conversation, or if you're with a loved one, or you're spending time with someone you don't get to see very often, you want to be there.
Yeah,
You
for sure.
want to be there. And I mean, that's it, right? It's just like those moments can get taken away from you.
Yeah.
You can.
It won't be until after the fact that you're like, man, I didn't really take that for what it was in the moment.
Yeah.
That's always the worst.
Yeah, we wanna take things as granted, not for granted,
Mm-hmm.
and that's really important. So in the midst of your sobriety, you got your health and wellness locked in. What was that like? What did you change? You know, because you said you dropped 30 pounds.
Yeah.
Was it a bunch? I'm sure it was like a bunch of little changes, or did you just start eating right and moving well and things like that?
So I always was moving well, like even in the height of my drinking and like the heaviest I've ever been, I was still working out a lot. Like I'm just a super active person. And I think when I stopped drinking, I lost a couple pounds, but not like a whole lot. But at that point, I had also stopped working out. Like I didn't have the energy or the motivation. And I'm also a firm believer in like, if your body is telling you that it doesn't want to or it can't, then don't beat yourself up about it. Like if you have a rest day that lasts longer than one day, that's okay. I took like a couple weeks off. I actually think I took like a month off at first. And so taking that off, I lost a little bit of muscle, which was very sad. But yeah, the weight that I lost was literally just a sobriety. It was a very gradual thing for me. My diet is pretty much the same. I would say currently my diet, I don't eat enough. I'm a very anxious individual. But I'm aware of that and I eat as much as my body will let me eat. But yeah, I mean, I was active for a majority of that time. Diet was like 70-30. They say the rule is 80-20. And I'm like, no. I'm going to make it 70-30.
You do whatever works for you.
Yeah. If I want some chocolate chips or some like Andy's custard, like please.
Andy's custard, eh?
So good. I also can down a family-sized bag of hot Cheetos in one sitting. So I will do it and I won't beat myself up about it. But yeah, I mean, it really wasn't a super big change in terms of like health and wellness. I stuck with doing what I normally did. I just wasn't consuming alcohol or soda. I pretty much stuck to water. But yeah.
And you started to like yourself?
Yeah. I mean, my skin started to get clearer. Right now I'm dealing with some shoulder acne, but my face got clearer. My muscles started getting leaner. Like I just started actually looking at myself in the mirror and being like, hey, maybe you are worthy of being loved, not by someone else, but by myself. Like I didn't like myself. I didn't like looking in the mirror. I didn't like taking pictures. And now I can do all that and I can actually look at myself and be proud of what I see.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's just a gradual progression.
Very slow.
Yeah.
Very slow.
And it was just seeing yourself, do the things you said you were going to do, like building up your self-worth through esteemable acts, let's say.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly that, actually.
Yeah. There's a quote that I say all the time on this podcast because this guy named Alex Hormozy said it. But you're what is it? Holy crap, now I forgot. Oh, you're building an undeniable stack of proof that you are the person you say you are because you're outworking your self-doubt. So if you have for the past year, 6 months, 2 weeks, whatever, how small it is or long it is, you've done the thing you said you were going to do. That is worthy of your attention. That means that it's a esteemable act. So you building your self-esteem, and in that you're building your self-worth. Yeah. And if you take a second to just say, oh, I did do all of those things I said I'm going to do. That's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah.
You know, that's why it's important that when you're starting on any sort of journey to make the habit you're trying to start so freaking small that it's impossible to fail.
Yes.
And that's a really important marker. So if we're relating it to fitness, and I'm someone who wants to start working out and I've never really worked out, there's no reason why you can't say that my workout routine when I start is going to be 1 jumping jack a week.
Yeah, I agree with you. Absolutely.
Because Monday morning comes and I literally do 1 jumping jack. You did that.
Yeah.
You literally did the thing you said you were going to do.
Yeah.
And most of the time you do 1, you're not just going to stop and walk away. You're like, oh shit, I did that already.
Yeah.
So maybe
I can crank out some more.
You just 5x your plan. And then week number 2, you're like, okay, I'll do 1 jumping jack on Monday and Wednesday this week. And you just slowly build from there. If you're willing to give yourself like the effort over the long haul, your chances of changing your entire life exponentially increase.
For sure.
Like that's why I don't like some of these things that people implement, like the 75 hard. Now, if it works for you, sick. Like great.
Yeah.
But if I get 25 days in and I miss one thing, now I view myself as a failure. I have to go all the way to start at square zero. I suck. I'm stupid.
Small attainable goals.
You know, that's all it is. And then you're the person who's now working out, doing some sort of movement 6 days a week. Maybe you love jumping jacks now. Maybe you've added walking. Maybe you've added Zumba. Maybe you've added group fitness.
Yes.
But if we can get up to that point where it's not embarrassing, right? It's not embarrassing that I have to start with 1 jumping jack a week. It's my starting point, and it's not for anyone else. It's for me. I'm putting it in my journal or in my head, and I'm doing it, and I'm checking that thing off, baby. I fucking did that shit. And then you're building up your self-worth because you're having an undeniable stack of proof that you are the person you say you are. Now, on the opposite spectrum, if I'm like, okay, I'm going to start working out, I'm going to do 3 days a week, 60 minutes. And you do that for 1 week because motivation's super high. Yeah. And then motivation starts to diminish because motivation is fleeting and it's not real. And then you had a long week and Monday comes around, you're like, nah.
Yeah, no.
And then Wednesday comes around, you're like, nah. Friday,
yeah.
And then you're spiraled back. Now, January 1st, you're coming up with a brand new New Year's resolution because you
those get me.
You know, instead of just having a new day resolution, every day is new. Every day is new. You can do something about it every single day. You don't need a specific time. It's never going to be the right time. It's never going to be the perfect time. It just is the time.
Yeah.
And that's how you can build any habit. You want to read more? You want to be better at communicating?
A small goal.
That's it.
Tiny steps.
Tiny.
Baby steps. I agree. I actually, like, before you even started saying it, I was like, oh, I should have said that. And then you said it and I was like, perfect. That's great. Yeah. I mean, I literally just got recertified for wellness coaching too. And that was a whole entire chapter. Is that like, yeah. And it doesn't have to go for just wellness and fitness. It can go for anything. Small goals. Something that you can actually achieve.
Absolutely.
Like, my mom is addicted to drinking Coke. She loves Coke. She has multiple Cokes a day. She's like, I just want to stop. And I'm like, your goal should be just 1 Coke a day because right now you drink 2 or 3. So that's a small goal, just 1. And then once you do that, maybe like you only drink Coke Monday through Friday. Yeah. And once you can do that for like a month, then cut it down again. Like, it doesn't have to be big and scary. That's why I made that comment about New Year's resolutions. People make the biggest goals, and I think that's awesome. But what are the small goals and small steps that are going to get you to that big goal?
Yes. But we tend to overestimate what we can do in 1 year and underestimate what we can do in 5 years.
Yeah.
Give yourself 5 years. Give yourself 10 years. Wow, what could you do? Holy shit, it could be unbelievable. That's what the gym taught me. Because I started working out when I was 13 and didn't feel like I saw any progress until I was 16. Like, that's 3 years. I was working out every single day because I became obsessed, and I also was getting bullied, and I was also in wrestling and baseball and all of these things. And then all of a sudden I'm like, holy shit, I'm 6'1", 225 pounds, and I'm pretty jacked.
Yeah.
I guess that's what 3 years of working out will do to you.
Lots of changes in that, for boys especially, lots of changes at that age too.
Absolutely.
That's crazy.
But then you think to yourself, oh, like all the work does pay off.
Yeah.
Like, I just have to be willing to sort of sit through the trenches of it all.
Patience, baby.
But yeah, what's your workout routine like these days? What are you doing for yourself?
Gosh, when I'm coaching, I'm also working out a little bit with them. Not for like the whole class, but a good chunk of it. So with how crazy my schedule's been, I actually only get like 1, maybe 2 classes in for myself. And I not only coach, but I attend group fitness. Like, I'm not one to go into the gym by myself, not because I'm against it, but because I'm a very distracted soul. And I'll do like 1 set and then just completely zone out for like 30 minutes. So group fitness is the way to go for me. But probably like 1 or 2 classes a week right now. And then I walk a lot.
And you play soccer?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Soccer, volleyball, flag football. Yeah. I didn't account for that. Yeah.
Those are all workouts.
You're right. They are.
Very hard. Very hard. Soccer I cannot do. 90 minutes of running.
Yeah.
Woo!
Listen, I look to Ree all the time and I'm like, help.
She's a legend. Yeah. What do you think makes a good coach? Something I think about a lot.
Ooh, this can go so many ways. I think, if I don't trip on my words here, the thing that makes a great coach is being able to read your athletes. And I call my members in my class athletes as well. Like, you don't have to be a part of a team. If you're working out, you're an athlete. And I think a coach that can read their athlete and know how to speak to them and connect with them. Because growing up, I played all sorts of sports, but soccer specifically. And I had a coach that was very aggressive and he would yell. And like a lot of people, I think honestly, a lot of my guy friends too, like they respond really well to what I would call negative feedback, like just screaming at them. And I don't. I respond well to like calm, encouraging words. And like the coaches that could recognize that would also get the best version of me on the field. Like, yes, I need to stay focused. Yes, I need to be aggressive and push, but I need to also feel like I'm having fun and like I'm being encouraged and recognized for the good things that I am doing, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Because if you can't read your athlete and you can't connect with them, then they're not going to respond well to you and they're not going to respond well in the field or in the workout. So that would probably be the biggest thing for me that makes the best coach, just knowing your athletes and knowing how to speak to them and work with them and encourage them.
Would you consider that to be a strength of yourself as a coach?
I would say for the most part. I don't think I'm perfect.
Well,
yeah, nobody is, but
that's not, yeah.
I would say yes. Yes and no. I lean more towards the encouraging side anyway. And if somebody tells me, hey, I want you to be harder on me, then I can do that. But I don't initiate that. Like, I'm never going to be a hard ass on someone because I've made that assumption. So am I the best at reading it straight off the bat? Probably not. I have progress that needs to be made there.
True.
But I can also just take feedback from them and be like, yeah, I can give you what you need for sure.
What do you think you need to work on as a coach?
Well, I mean, I just, in terms of what we were just talking about.
No, just generally speaking. Is there anything that stands out to you that you know this is something you want to improve upon?
Yeah, I mean, well, writing and programming your own workouts, sometimes your mind starts to get repetitive. So for me right now, I'm trying to get creative. So I'm trying to visit other people's classes. I'm trying to go on Instagram and look at some other gyms and see like what are they posting? What are they doing? Just looking for ideas to get creative, because group fitness is different than other types of working out. Like, repetition is good and I stand by that and I definitely support it. But the people that come to a lot of group fitness classes don't want repetition.
Right.
They want to change it up. And so for me right now, it would just finding a way to stay creative. That's what I want to do better with. I also tend to get nervous on the mic and I will just like start blabbing my mouth and I'm like, these people sometimes don't want to hear you talk. Just stop talking. So that's another thing too. Just being aware of when to speak up and when not to.
Yeah, that's a hard distinction to make because you are the instructor.
Yeah. And like the second I stop talking, sometimes people just stop working and I'm like, no, keep repping.
Yeah. So, I mean, I imagine that's very hard. I don't, I'm not a frequent group fitness attendee. I did one workout with Ree at Evolve.
Oh my goodness me. What day did you go again?
It had to have been a weekend.
Oh, even worse. Yeah. Those are some tough ones.
Yeah, I mean, the workout was good. The workout was good. I just, like, for me, going to the gym is like, it's like me time.
Get out of my way. Don't talk to me. Let me get my headphones in my zone.
Sometimes I don't even wear headphones. I'm just like there.
No music when you work out?
I don't listen to music when I work out. If my headphones are in, it's like a podcast or like a speech or like a
wow,
like a lecture. Because it like if I don't like to get too hyped when I work out because I'm already like very excited to be there. And I don't need to have any more energy. Like I'm fucking, I want to be at the gym.
I love that.
I haven't missed a workout in I don't know how long. So like listening to music doesn't vibe. And then I also just like to think about stuff when I'm at the gym. So sometimes I forget to count my sets and I'm like, that doesn't even matter to me. But most of the time I write my stuff down. But usually it's just like a lecture or a
Yeah.
podcast or something informative.
I love that.
I don't digest the information as fully as I would if I was sitting down and taking notes. So usually it's just something that just like comes and goes, and I'll take little pieces.
Yeah.
Of it. But yeah, so
Interesting. I love that. I've definitely heard of people listening to podcasts on runs.
on runs for sure.
Yeah. For me, runs, I have to be fully distracted. I need something to take my mind off of the run. So I have tried a podcast, and I think I just made a poor choice. I don't even know what it was. It did not engage me. And I was like, okay, we're switching to like EDM music because.
Well, now you can put yourself in your headphones.
You're right. I can just
You
listen
can
to us.
Listen to you talk all the time.
Oh goodness. Ooh.
But yeah, I think about being a coach, like being a good coach and being a good leader all the time. Because I coach a 14-year-old baseball team, and I think I've distilled it down to 3 things are really important. One is enthusiasm.
Oh, for sure.
Like caring about what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like when you show up to the thing, you look excited. Like, and that's super important for you as a group fitness instructor. If you look like
you don't want to be there, nobody's going to want to be there.
then people are going to go through the motions just like you're going through the motions. So enthusiasm is really important. And it's really important for 14-year-olds because they feed off this energy. Like I feed off their energy mostly. They come excited.
For sure.
And if I'm bringing their energy down, I'm just doing it wrong. Like I'm trying to get up to their level and stay there with my enthusiasm.
Right.
And I think number 2, you touched on it about programming and staying creative and stuff, is like knowledge of the thing you're talking about, knowledge of baseball, knowledge of fitness, movement patterns. Where should my arm go? How do I feel the contraction of my muscles? Things like that. So
right.
Just knowledge.
Yes.
Because you can get away with not being enthusiastic if you know a fuckload, but you're going to lose a lot of people even if you do know a lot. And I think enthusiasm, that's why I put it at number 1.
Yeah. I would agree.
And then the third thing, which you also touched on, which is genius, is being able to say the same thing in 100 different ways so every person that you talk to can understand it.
Yes.
Which is what you just said.
Yeah.
Is knowing your athlete. If I'm talking to a 14-year-old kid and I'm saying, hey, you need to do this, 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 and this, and he looks at me like this, and then tries to go and do it, and he does the same thing he just did, and then I say the same thing over and 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 over again, and then I get mad at him for not understanding it. Whose fucking fault is that? It's mine. I'm the idiot. I didn't take responsibility for my actions. I didn't even listen and see him. I just like, this is how I'm going to do it. I'm a cookie cutter coach. I only know one way to say it. Instead of just being like, maybe this is it, or maybe this is it, or maybe this is it, or maybe this is it. And then he's like, and then he has a light bulb moment, and it's like, holy shit, that's the coolest thing. And then you have to do that with all of your athletes. Now, at some points in group fitness and when coaching, like everyone's just in a circle, and you're just giving basic information about a basic thing.
Right.
Like this is the overview of the workout, or this is the overview of the practice plan.
Yeah.
Great. Everyone should understand those basic tenets. But if you're talking about specific things like, hey, you need to pull your elbow back to your rib cage.
Right.
I don't get that. Okay, let me figure it out.
Yeah, and you'd be surprised people actually don't get that.
It's very hard.
Yeah.
Like contracting and breathing as you're doing the eccentric, concentric portion of the workout. Like
for me, I'm like, pretend you're squeezing a penny between your shoulder blades. And for me, I'm like, obviously that makes sense. And there are people that it genuinely does not click with.
Yeah.
And so, you just have to like mess around and, well, not mess around, but you have to like figure out what is going to make sense to them.
Yeah. And that's the fun part about it. And if that annoys you as a coach, then coaching isn't right for you.
Yeah.
That's like the cool part about trying to be creative with your language and being sophisticated about how you approach things. And also being able to control your response. Like, why the fuck doesn't this person go to, God damn it, this is so stupid. Being like, okay.
I do still say it in my head.
You know, sometimes, right? My dad used to do that to me when we were doing math homework because I just didn't get math homework in high school. And he's like a genius. And my sister was a genius. And I'm not a genius.
He's like, what the heck, dude?
They were both like, just get it. You know, it's probably much exaggerated.
But I don't get it.
It creates a funny story. But I think it's so important. Like coaching is such an art form, and like it's such a responsibility. Like especially for people who are really trying to like change their life. Mm-hmm. And this is the first place they started at. Yeah. And you're the person they saw first, and you're like, oh, I might be able to actually do this. Like Maddie can get me there. Like I see her and. That's the vision I want for my life too, and she did this whole thing, and
that's the dream.
It's like, it's no small thing. Like, and you don't know everyone's story that walks into your gym.
No.
You don't know half their story. People didn't even know you were drinking on the job. So they
Yeah.
didn't know your story and how much you were battling and still showing up. And it could be the same thing for someone else. Like, I just got to get to this workout, and then I can just do this, and this can fall into place, and this workout's going to, like, all these things can happen just based on simply moving your body.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's incredible. What else do you think about wellness? What are the other, like, important things about wellness except for movement and eating, or anything else that you do in part of your day?
Sleep. Oh my gosh, sleep. Like, even in the course, and just my own opinion, like, sleep is most important. And if you can't prioritize sleep, which is very hard to do when you've got a lot going on in life, then absolutely nothing, no matter how hard you try, is gonna go well for you if you're lacking on sleep. Sleep is a part of, like, probably the biggest thing for wellness, your nutrition, like your diet. And like I said earlier, I made my own rule 70-30, and I think it does great. So just knowing, like, your own limits and, like, making sure you're taking care of yourself. And then physical activity, but you also, like, physical activity is great, but it's not going to bring you everything that you need if you don't have human interaction too. So I think having connections is also very important. And I'm sure I'm forgetting things too, but I definitely think prioritizing sleep. A lot of people will, I mean, me included, when I get busy, I coach at 5 a.m. some mornings. So I have to get up at 3:50. Yeah. And there are some nights where I don't get done coaching until like 7 or 8. So I get home, I eat dinner, I shower, I get ready for bed. And by the time I can wind all the way down and go to sleep, it's like 11 p.m. and I have to get up at 3:50. So, like, those nights, the day after is always the hardest. But I know that that's just like one night of the week. So if people can prioritize, like, give or take 7 hours roughly a night, then I would say that's so important for, like, overall wellness. Just to be a kinder person, clearer thoughts. You can set goals and be more likely to achieve them because you won't be so utterly exhausted.
Yeah. Because if your aim, right, is to try and be the best version of you, the only way that you can be the best version of you is if you have energy.
Right.
How do you have energy?
I mean, with your food and what you eat and your sleep.
Yep, those two things.
Yeah.
Mostly your sleep, because when you get enough sleep and you're well rested and you have this sort of energized tranquility about you, you're going to be clearer minded and have more clarity to be able to make the decisions that you know you should make.
Yeah.
Because every person knows what a healthy person does. Everyone knows that. It's very clear. It's very out there. There's all the science. There's social media. There's everything. People know what they should be eating, and they know how to embody what a healthy person would do in this moment.
Right.
And the reason they don't do it is most of the time because they're tired, they're stressed, they're overwhelmed, and they don't have the energy to make those decisions or pre-plan for those decisions so you can buy your willpower at the store. So you don't have to worry about having that Coke because it's not in your house. You deleted these bad habits through friction, and you've created this life where a healthy person makes these choices. And then it's not so bad when you have that ice cream or the cookie, because the majority of 70% of the time you're cruising.
Yeah.
And then, like, oh, I'm going to have this dessert. And there's no shame behind it. There's like, I enjoy this thing.
Yeah.
It tastes good. Because you know you're still going to do all of these things that you normally do because they're part of your life. You're not eating this thing saying, okay, then tomorrow I have to go run 12 miles. No, there's no have to. You eat this thing.
You get to.
And you enjoy it and you love it. And you share it with a friend or your partner, or you're just driving home from work and you're like, ice cream sounds pretty good right now. And you just eat it. And then the next day when you wake up, because you still prioritize your sleep because you're that person, you put that into your life regimen, you wake up and maybe you're like, oh, maybe we'll play some tennis today. Not that you have to do it in the morning because you ate this thing and now you have to work it off. That's just not how it should work, right? We just, like, let life flow to you. But if you've built up these tenets in your life, then the this or that or whatever, like, it doesn't matter. It just fits. And so that's how I view it, at least, because I love dessert. I love candy.
Yeah, it's so good.
Oh, it's delicious. But I've tried to build up habits in my life where we don't do it often. And Ree's very good at it too. She's very disciplined. And so we bounce stuff off each other, right? Like, is today an ice cream night, or, are we gonna do this? What are we having for tomorrow? Like we're planned, so we have these things in advance,
Right.
And you can do that too as an individual, like with your life, because just because you're not planning your life doesn't mean things aren't happening. Like things are still gonna happen no matter if you plan or not. So might as well, like put your best foot forward in terms of organizing yourself in that way. But
for sure.
in terms of this past year, do you still feel like shame and guilt over who you were? Have you forgive yourself? Was there a period where you didn't? Was forgiveness even a part of your mind frame in terms of your past behaviors?
I don't think I ever thought about forgiving myself. I didn't even really think about the shame for a while there. It wasn't until actually yesterday I was talking to my boss. I actually have like an in-person court appearance tomorrow where I have to watch the body cam footage of blackout Maddie getting arrested, and that has like put me in a chokehold. Like I have like not been able to breathe over it. It's just, I mean, who wants to watch that person? And I can't remember the words that she used, but she just kind of like looked at me and was like, you have to remember that version of Maddie is no longer. She's not there anymore. And that is not you. And you need to walk in there and you need to realize that is not you anymore. And if you walk in there still associating yourself with that version of you, that means you have not let her go. That means you have not forgiven her. And that means that you're going to walk in there and you're going to show the court that there's still potential that that's you. And like, she said it in a little bit of a different way than that, but basically it just kind of hit me that like, yeah, that's not me anymore. Like I'm going to watch it and it's going to make me cringe and it's going to make me feel a little bit of shame, but just knowing like that is not me in any way whatsoever. And it won't ever be me again. And it will always be a reminder. And even though I'm like nervous to have that memory ingrained, that, like I said, it will always be a reminder and it will always keep me from going back to the way that I was. So I guess her saying that kind of was my moment where I was like, okay, that's not me anymore. And I am ready to release that version of me, which I guess in a way is forgiveness.
Yeah. Yeah, it's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, you transformed that version of yourself.
I'm still nervous for tomorrow though.
Well, that's totally fine. Nerves are okay. Nerves mean multiple things. Nerves mean that you're alive.
Yeah.
Nerves mean that you care about the thing you're about to do.
Yeah.
And nerves just mean that you're in high arousal. And high arousal doesn't always mean bad. High arousal sometimes can mean I'm excited.
Yeah, true.
It can borderline on anxiousness, but sometimes we need to be anxious about things because it keeps us safe.
Right.
I'm going to be anxious about entering a new environment. Not that it debilitates me that I can't walk into the room.
Yeah.
But if I'm going to walk down a dark alley at night to get to my car, I'm going to be on high alert. I'm going to be highly aroused because I'm anxious. I'm not just like, nothing's going to happen. Like I can't be naive about these situations in my life. And you're also going into a highly stressful situation. So if you weren't nervous or anxious, it would probably be weird.
Probably be concerning.
That probably means you've numbed yourself out to the point where you don't feel things anymore. And I don't want to live that life. I want to feel these things. Now, how can I transform my nerves or my anxiety into something that can be conducive or positive, that I can still be in the present moment? That's just developing a set of tools, and that's possible for anyone.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, like if you think about when you started drinking and when it got out of hand, right? You were just doing the best you could with the information that you had. So that's why I think like I've had some addiction specialists on this podcast, and they talk about that. Like once you've gathered yourself enough where you know that the thing you're doing is an issue and you're addicted. You weren't addicted, but I'm just saying in general, right? That thing is starting to ruin your life, and then you start to get on the side of recovery. That thing that you did was ultimately the thing that saved you in the moment. It kept you potentially from doing something else. Right. For addicts, it's potentially kept them from killing themselves. For you, it was your coping strategy because you were a young person dealing with a lot of things, and this is the best way you knew how to do it. Right. And so that forgiveness comes along saying, okay, I did the best I could. And if we can just assume that of other people and of ourselves, we'll just be a little less harsh on ourselves. Not that we're not going to hold ourselves accountable, because you absolutely did. you know, you didn't do some great stuff.
Right.
But you've already come to terms with that. Now I can say, now I can release that part of me, like you just said, and be like, wow, man, I fucking crushed it. I've come so far. This is sick. You know, so cool.
It is so cool. I finally achieved so many goals that I had for myself that I kept pushing back.
Yeah.
So it's awesome.
Congratulations.
Thank
Again.
you.
I want to talk to you about one more thing.
Yes.
One of my favorite topics. Currently.
Lay it on me.
Dating in the modern world.
Gross. Take it back.
What's that been like for you? Have you dated a lot? Are you trying to date?
I haven't dated a lot. I don't know. I had like one super bad experience, and after that, I just
super bad experience.
So okay, super bad. That's so dramatic. Gosh, it was freshman year of college. So what I'm about to say is gonna be like, well, duh, Maddie. Long distance, freshman year of college, he cheated on me the whole time, and it was like super upsetting. And at that point in time, I was like, I'm swearing off all men. I hate guys. And I used to straight up say, like, I hate men. There was one time I jokingly, I don't even think I really fully understood what this meant when I said it, was in the store with my sister, and I was like, you know what? I think I'm asexual. Did not know the full definition. She busted out laughing, and it was just a joke. And so I said it for forever. And it wasn't until like 3 years later that I finally gave it a chance, only because my friends would constantly pester me.
What, gave dating a chance?
Yeah.
You figured out what asexual meant, though?
Well, yeah, I did. And I was like, wow, that's why she almost fell to the floor in the middle of the grocery store. Because I was like, yeah, I mean, it's not bad, but why would I say that? Anyways. Yeah, no, my friends pestered me for forever. So I have dated a handful. Yeah, I would say a handful of guys since that point in time. And it's just hard. I mean, you'll get a guy that's almost 28, 29, and you're like, okay, cool, he's mature, he's got his life together, but then he ends up manipulating every single part of you the whole time, making you think that you're like a child and that you're wrong, and I don't know what it is, but for me, I stay in situations even when I shouldn't. And I know that it's wrong, and I will stay.
Even now in your current state of being?
Yeah. I think it's because I want that partnership so bad. And for some guys, I think I convince myself subconsciously that I can fix them. And then for other guys, I think it's me saying that I'm the problem and like I'll work through this, or I will work on me so that we can have a chance. And at some point, it's like, okay, it's not me. Well, it could be, but it's also them, and it's just not going to work. I think dating's hard too, because a lot of guys these days don't actually want commitment. It's not the fact that they want to be sleeping with all these girls, but it's like they don't want to have to be tied down to just one person. They don't want to have to think about your emotions and your, like, what you're going through. They just want to think about themselves. And I hate to say selfish, but it is selfish. Like, they just want to be themselves. And I think that's fair, but a lot of guys will come into it. I had one guy initiate everything, and I thought it was going great. And then he's just like, I don't have time for this. Like, I can't prioritize this. And I'm like, well, here I am now with the feelings for you, thinking that there was hope and potential. I never sought you out. You found me. You initiated everything. And now you're running at the thought of commitment. And I have faced that multiple times. And I know friends that have faced it too. And I'm just like, this is so hard. And I know it goes both ways. I know there are girls too that just don't want to commit. And I'm like, I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't know if it's because of like the way things are these days, where like there's all these dating apps and social media where there's all of these options and people have this idea that the grass is greener on the other side. I don't know what it is, but.
Can I ask you a question about those relationships?
Yeah.
You don't have to answer if you don't want to. Did you sleep with these guys?
Not all of them.
And the ones that you did, how early was it?
One of them was the first time we hung out by ourselves. So the second time I saw him in person. And the other one wasn't until like 4 or 5 dates.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. There wasn't that many guys I dated, so.
No, yeah, I know that. So thanks for answering. You didn't have to. Not to put you on the spot, but yeah, there's there's a couple of reasons why I think dating, is challenging
Tough.
in the modern world. I think one, our society has sort of demonized this idea of commitment and marriage.
Mm-hmm.
So people aren't willing to get into it and commit to the long term because they think, yeah, like there's so many options. I'll just find something else or something better, quote unquote, when really that's not the case.
I feel like they get bored so easily. And I'm like, relationships aren't going to be fun all the time. Like, you're going to be with your person and have fun with them, but not every day is going to be like the best day. And I think a lot of people, male and female, do not get that anymore.
Well, yes, because our society has become one of instant gratification.
Yeah.
I have to get this now.
Yeah.
And I will not wait. And if I do have to wait, then it's not worth it, and I'm just going to go somewhere else for it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a challenge. The level of easy access to pornography and OnlyFans is a huge issue, especially for males.
Yeah.
Because if I am a young man and I know that our society has now sort of over-rotated to the fact where we sort of demonize men for being toxic and having all these traits that have ruined society, and we've been oppressive to everyone all of the time, no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
A young boy hears that, then he has easy access to pornography where he can see millions of really attractive women do all sorts of things. Why am I going to leave the house?
Right.
And why am I going to leave the house? Also, I'm not going to become a great man because I don't need to. Because I'm not trying to attract a great woman.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to be weak and docile and stay in my house and watch pornography. And that's all the social intimacy I need. Of course, that's awful. It ruins people's lives.
Yeah.
So that is an issue. Also, this idea that just promiscuity in general, a lot of females wanting to act like males and basically sleeping with more people to be like men, to sleep with more people.
Right.
Now, if you sleep with more people, that means the men that you sleep with have to do less work to sleep with you. So now they're not becoming the man you want them to because it's easy to access everything that they want.
Right.
Not everything they want. And again, it's not the woman's job to make men better. That's not what I'm saying. But there is a point where we've become so adversarial, men and women, that when we try and elevate ourselves, we want the other gender to go down the other way.
Right.
Not let's elevate each other, simultaneously meeting at this peak to create a beautiful, meaningful relationship. Now, every interaction you have or every time you date someone is not going to be the one, but it can still be a positive thing. Like, I learned this and this and this about myself. Oh, so this is what I actually want, even though I thought it might have been this.
Right.
I'm glad I went on that span of dates with that person. And so that's what the sort of the wow.
The gist, maybe?
The challenge.
Okay.
That's 170 podcast episodes, and I still don't know how to talk. So
we love that.
but that's the challenge of modern dating, and then you add social media, and then you add dating apps, and then you add all of these other moving parts, and it becomes incredibly challenging.
Yes.
And
yes.
so,
yes.
But just like anything, if you want something for real, you have to be willing to risk heartbreak.
Yes.
The only way you find love is through heartbreak.
Yes.
And you have to be willing to go out in the long haul. And I think the most important part, which I stated earlier, especially for men, you have to become the person who is attractive to the person that you want in your life.
Right. Yeah.
You have to become that person.
How can you attract what you want?
That is. Yeah. Everyone knows what that is.
Yeah.
If I don't have a job, I live with my parents,
right,
and I eat shitty food, and I have a car that doesn't work, and I have no motivation, and I haven't shaved in 4 weeks, who's attractive to that? Like, you just have to get real. And this is not to be mean to anyone who literally is in that current situation. This is to say that you can flip it around and you can become that version that attracts that teacher, that kindergarten teacher that you find so beautiful.
Yeah.
Or that group fitness instructor, or the engineer at whatever, right? Whatever you're attracted to. Not that this random thing that you see on porn, that's not a person.
Right.
That's a performer.
Right.
That's an actor. She's not like that in real life. I don't know, actually. Never met one. But that's not what we're trying to cultivate real relationships in real life.
I think
real humans.
Trust and transparency too. that's something that I've seen make relationships difficult for me and other people, like transparency. If your partner gets upset, like let's say you're feeling insecure about something and you just have a question, not because you think that they're actually doing it, but because something in your past is making you feel that way and you're like, I just want to talk about this. And if they get defensive and they don't want to be transparent with you, then that just like starts an unhealthy relationship that is going to go downhill. And it's hard to find somebody who's willing to be transparent and willing to have those conversations with you, because I like to say I don't have trust issues, but I think I do because of what happened with my dad.
You do.
And yeah, so I'm not crazy about it, but at some points I will like ask a question, and some guys have gotten very annoyed by these questions and they're like, well, I don't have to tell you. And I'm like, you're right, you don't, but like, this bothers me. Do you care that it bothers me? Do you want to have that conversation? Or is this you telling me that you don't care about me? And is this going to get worse, kind of a thing? I think it's incredibly sketchy when a guy has an entire page on his phone, like where he hides the dating apps and Snapchat notifications, like when they're hidden, to where like you just scroll to the back of his phone. Not that I would like to say I have never actually looked through a guy's phone, but like I have seen him pull up Snapchat and go to it. And I'm like, why are you hiding all of these things? Why are you hiding them?
Those are actions.
Yeah, but like,
and you have to take those actions.
Why are you dating if you have something hidden like that? Like you shouldn't be dating then, I think.
Well, of course not, but that behavior has probably got him where he wants to get.
That's probably true.
So he's not going to change his behavior until something catastrophic happens.
Well, I seem to only attract those kinds of guys. So let's circle back to what you just said. That means I need to do better about...
Well, that means you need to sort of understand, why you keep falling into the same trap over and over again.
It's a great question, because they find me and I'm like, no, I'm not interested.
Yeah, but there's got to be like warning signs and things that you might ignore. I'm not saying you're not doing a good job, but like if you the response is the same on both ways, right? If you're someone who sticks out in a relationship too long because you want to make it work, that's a response from your parents not being able to make their relationship work. And if you are someone who tries to fix other people, it's this response from your parent, your dad or your mom not trying hard enough to make their relationship work. So it's the same thing. It's both from the same thing.
That's crazy. I think you're right. And
so you have an awareness about it because you mentioned it, or else I wouldn't have said anything about it. So you are aware of it. And so when you become aware of it, then you have to figure out why it's happening. Is this something I actively can change or want to change? Or am I just doing this because this is my trauma response?
Right.
And then how can I not have that be my response by sort of healing that side?
Yeah.
And then when you get into long-term relationships, say 2, 3, 4 years, then it might come out. But then it's easier to have the conversation about it. Because now this person you're fully engaged with this person. They know your backstory.
Close
they know
enough.
Your history. And so they can be like, hey, this might be showing up for this reason. Like, let's talk about it a little bit more.
Yeah.
And so that could potentially be something that you might want to look at.
Yeah, you're right. I will say the last relationship, or whatever you want to call it, that I had, I did do a lot better about communicating and staying calm. And I pride myself on that.
Very good.
So that was one win.
All step in the right direction.
Even though it didn't work out, it was still a win.
It's still a huge win. Huge win. Everything you're doing, right, is all a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
You have to put yourself out there. I tell do you know anything about baseball?
Barely.
Okay. Well, I tell my little boys, this is the same thing in dating, right? You have to be willing to strike out in the same batter's box that you want to have the game-winning hit in.
Okay, yeah, I get that reference. I like that. That's a good one.
I'm willing to strike out here, but maybe tomorrow, maybe next week, maybe a month, maybe a year, I'm going to have the game-winning hit.
Yeah.
Rhea and I have a great saying that dating sucks till it doesn't.
Yes. I'm going to print that one.
I mean, that's the truth.
It does suck. It's exhausting. It's scary. Like you said, you got to take that leap of faith and be willing to get your heart broken.
Mm-hmm. Now, dating doesn't suck if all you're trying to do is go out there and have sex with a bunch of people. which I did for a while, and it didn't suck.
I don't think I ever want to do that.
But it's not conducive for anything. It doesn't add value into your life. It doesn't cultivate any sort of connection or
Right.
emotional maturity or emotional connection, which is usually when you have the best sexual intimacy, is when you're actually emotionally invested in
Connected.
the individual that you're looking at, and you can look them in the eye and can say, I fucking care about you and I love you, and it's so cool that we're connected in this super intimate way and our bodies are touching. It's fucking wild.
Yeah.
Because we can't treat sex as this like casual throw it away thing. I used to do that all the time, and it got me like to a point where I felt like absolute shit about my life.
Yeah.
Like absolute shit. And that's when I decided to go celibate, and that's when I opened up space in my heart and in my life for something real, and that's when Ree came into my life, and like it happened in such a magical way that I can't even write it up any better. But like I had to go to a place where like I was like feeling awful about the decisions that I was making, and I did a whole episode about it if you guys want to listen to that.
It's your own version of dating rock bottom.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
And so yeah, if I can encourage guys to get to that place where they, you know, become this person who is like emotionally mature, can have deep conversations and connections, and can also be tough and strong, but also be soft and gentle. Like you can embody those dynamic characteristics to be someone that can be the someone for your partner.
Yeah.
And that's a beautiful thing. Like that's you two people building a very small community in a very large world, but that bleeds out into so many different things, and there's a domino effect of that love and that care and that community, and how many other people can you affect, and all of these things. So it's not a small thing to say I want to commit, or if you don't want to get married, at least say I want to have this partner for a long time or for forever, or whatever you think about it.
Right.
I think the institution of marriage is extremely important for the longevity of our society. But anyways, any other points you want to make about dating?
No, I think we covered a lot of them. I mean, most of them. I'm sure there's something.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Do you have any other last minute thoughts, comments, questions, funny stories, things you have to share? Because I have one more question, but I'll let you share that.
Being put on the spot, my mind goes to like clouds. No, nothing. I'm a funny girl. I have something funny, usually. Not right now.
Not right now?
No.
So this last year has been pretty incredible for you. In terms of growth and transformation. If you come back on this podcast 1 year from now, what do you want to say has happened?
Oh my goodness me. Well, I would love for all of my DWI to be completed, like all of the court stuff.
Okay, great.
They stretch that out. It is going on for far too long. So I would love for that to be done.
Okay.
Right now I still live with my mom, so I would love to be able to say that I am on my own. I'm already shifting full time to one gym. I was at 4 different places. So
That's so many places.
yes, yeah. We're shifting into one gym right now.
Full time at one gym.
Yeah.
That's sick.
Yeah. This gym is also like, I don't want to be 1099 anymore. They're a headache for me. Shout out to anyone that deals with just 1099s. You're awesome. My goal is to not. So that's what I'm doing. And then the last thing probably would be, it's a financial thing. I would love to be able to say that like I'm financially stable. Right now I'm paying off my car, paying off student loans.
Okay.
To be able to say I paid off my car fully, that would be amazing.
Sweet.
Yeah. I mean, health and wellness stuff, I don't really set goals per se. It's just like an everyday thing. It's like a lifestyle.
Right.
So
Very good.
I can't say anything would be much different. Just maybe that I continue on with my healthy lifestyles or lifestyle habits. But yeah.
Okay. Well, I can't wait to circle back to those.
Yeah, I'll see you guys in 1 year.
In 1 year's time.
Let's see. June 6th, 2024, baby.
Oh, jeez. Great. Okay, last question. If you, Maddie,
Yes.
were going to put up a billboard
Oh my gosh. Don't ask me what I want to say on it.
in the middle of downtown Dallas,
Oh, I don't know.
and millions of people were going to see this billboard every single day,
Uh,
what would you put on it?
Okay, give me a moment.
Think
Let's
about it.
see.
I got one idea that you might have. We'll see if you choose that one.
You know what's crazy is I have a quote in like my Facebook bio, and I love that quote. And in this moment, I can't even think of it.
I know what's on your Instagram bio.
Here to help you on your wellness journey.
No, your actual Instagram, not your fitness one.
Oh, I think I'm just so nervous that I can't remember what it is.
It's take it one day at a time.
Yeah, that's right. That is right.
That's a great one to put on the billboard.
I think that would be what I put on the billboard.
I was gonna say that one, or you could potentially say, since you talked about being worthy of love, like you are worthy of love is a good billboard.
That is.
We could go front to back.
Yeah. One side is one and one side is the other. I do think I would probably choose the one day at a time one. Circling back to what we said earlier, just being present in the moment.
Yeah. Taking it one day at a time.
Yeah.
Even one moment, 1 minute.
1 second.
If really things are really, really hard, I can make it to the next minute, and I can make it to the next minute, and the next minute, and the next minute.
Yeah.
And then an hour has passed, and you can make it to the next hour, and then the day has passed, and you're like, I fucking did that shit. And then you're building up that undeniable stack.
Exactly like that. Exactly.
And that's what you've been doing for the last year. And I'm glad that you and my fiance became friends.
Me too.
I'm glad that now we've gotten a chance to talk, and we've become friends.
Yeah.
And a lot of cool stuff is going to happen in the next year. You're going to come back on this podcast. We're going to have a wedding to celebrate.
A wedding. I am so pumped.
So, very cool.
For someone who doesn't have a relationship, I love celebrating love.
Well, that's why you're going to have a very deep and profound relationship.
You're right. That's a goal. Okay, we'll circle back on that in a year too.
Maybe that doesn't have to be a goal because you're not trying to rush it or force it.
No. Just like have that healthier relationship and be able to recognize things and work on what we talked about.
Yeah, I see you having a beautifully profound relationship. And it's going to fit great when we go on some double dates, whenever that is.
You're going to make me cry. Yes. Whenever that is. I'm excited.
No time frame because we'll be around for a while.
Yeah.
So, beautiful. Well, thank you, Maddie.
Thank you for having me.
If you want to learn more about Maddie, please just click the links below in show notes. Instagrams are available, and she will, answer all of your health and wellness questions.
Come at me.
Whatever the case may be. So, thank you, and we'll see you guys next time. Cheers.
Cheers.
What's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning into that episode. And if you enjoyed it, click here for another full-length episode of the podcast. And please don't forget to subscribe. But above all else, most importantly, please take good care of yourselves and others. And I'll see you next time. Lots of love. Cheers.